other fight that would sell and it would be huge, it would be that. It would be Diaz 3.
Oh, yeah.
That could be, especially if Diaz gets past Poirier.
Yes.
Shit, even if he doesn't. I mean, just that fight alone. I mean, there's the history between those two guys. I mean, that would be...
And it's so appealing stylistically as well, the fight, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a grappler at heart. I love grappling. But I also understand that a jiu-jitsu tournament will put people to sleep, you know. Even if you're into jiu-jitsu, it's hard to watch a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Yes.
But anybody can see a punch hitting someone in the head and then falling down. That's, you know, that's exciting. And him and Diaz is such a great personality matchup. It's such a great skill clash. You know, if I was to design somebody that's going to bring the best out of a corner, you'd want someone that, you know, can hit back and take a big shot and put up at the trash. It's a beautiful fight. I always...
You know, we're still working on that fight. That fight's not done yet, but yeah, I wouldn't count out a Conor.
Dana said the UFC card, White House card, should be the most watched card ever. So again, you're going to have guys like this in order to achieve that, because right now they don't have the roster to do it. So we got to do Blast from the Past. It's a McDonald's card. Nate,
Look, if Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor ever really decide to hash this out once and for all, and it happens on a White House card, we're talking about something absolutely insane here. This wouldn't be just some nostalgic throwback fight. This would be straight up legacy-defining stuff that people talk about forever.
Because that's not the fight I want to see next, okay? If Nate Diaz comes back and gets a big win over someone in the welterweight division, okay? And he does it impressively, and then the McGregor fight happens, that's when I'm interested. But right now, I feel like the hardcore fans are kind of in mutual agreement that it's Masvidal or Gaethje. To us, it's kind of Masvidal or Gaethje, and for Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani to both say that they think Nate Diaz Trilogy should be next is strange to me. Very strange to me, because I would love to see either Gaethje or Masvidal. I feel like everyone's in agreement here. We've seen that Donald Cerrone has been beaten by Conor McGregor in his return at UFC 2.
The experts are split right down the middle on this one, like watching some intense strategic battle play out. You've got some people seeing McGregor coming out guns blazing with that devastating power and surgical accuracy in those opening rounds. Then you've got the other camp pointing straight to Diaz's iron jaw, his non-stop cardio, and that crazy ability to pull even the best fighters into his chaotic storm where he does his best work. That unpredictable madness could totally set up a trilogy where it's less about raw power and more about who can adapt, stay mentally tough, and keep their cool when everything's on the line.
Saying like, how do you want to run it back with Jake? I mean, I remember you won that fight. A lot of people felt that. I'm sure you felt that. And then you see what happens with Anthony Joshua.
Listen, Nate Diaz isn't here for meaningless fights or quick cash grabs. The guy's locked in on settling scores, taking real fights, facing legitimate challenges that actually matter. Sure, there's been talk floating around about another Jake Paul situation, and yeah, that would grab attention. But Diaz seems way more interested in getting back in there with actual proven fighters, the kind of battles that make or break legacies. He's basically saying, without spelling it out completely, that for the right money, he's ready to dive headfirst back into that pressure cooker of elite-level combat. A massive trilogy with McGregor? Absolutely. A brutal fan favorite war with Dustin Poirier? You know it. Any other major name who wants to step up? It's all on the table for him. When someone first mentioned the wild idea of fighting on a White House card, he didn't even hesitate for a second. For Diaz, it's crystal clear. Big stage, real competition, genuine tests, and another shot to prove he belongs with the greatest ever.
Doing this, you know what I mean? Like,
talking about who?
About Jake Paul.
Nah, he's doing it. He already fought the heavyweight champion and got his son in. He's doing a great job, I think. And then besides that, I'm doing a real fight. I would like to fight. I'd like to fight somebody. Man, for the right price. I'm ready to get back in real action. I want to fight either McGregor 3. I want to fight maybe Dustin Poirier if he's happy to take the pussy, and then maybe Mike Perry. We'll see what happens in the future, though.
You want the White House card?
Yeah, that'd be dope too.
McGregor on the White House card?
American.
Sometimes you gotta wonder though, right? In a sport this punishing and demanding, maybe there's moments where you think about walking away from it all.
Diaz is 40 years old. He shocked the stardom when he shocked the world and choked out Conor McGregor.
Hey, I'm not surprised, mother.
Then they had the rematch. McGregor looked great, beat him up over 5 rounds, but he wasn't able to finish it. Now, Nate Diaz, because of that, made a tremendous amount of money, and his stardom just shot through the absolute roof, and he made an absolute fortune. And then he left the UFC, and he went off to box Jake Paul, and he lost to Jake Paul, okay? It was an embarrassing night for Nate Diaz. Simple.
Looking at this through Michael Bisping's eyes, the former UFC middleweight champ, Nate Diaz's whole story is this crazy rocket ship that launched off one earth-shattering moment, shocking Conor McGregor. That completely unexpected victory didn't just win him a fight, it made the entire planet stop and take notice of the undeniable star quality Diaz had. Overnight, he became a genuine mainstream sensation. The rematch kept that spotlight blazing even hotter, and the huge payday that followed changed his whole world. In Bisping's analysis, that incredible wave carried Diaz to massive earnings and locked in his status as a real cultural icon before he left the UFC temporarily to try his hand at boxing against Jake Paul. That boxing adventure, in Bisping's opinion, didn't work out quite how Diaz hoped, marking a difficult period in what's been an otherwise incredible journey.
But wouldn't you rather see Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor at the White House? That's the fight that I'd rather see, if I'm honest. Nate Diaz versus Max Holloway, yeah, that would be a tremendous fight. We'd all love to see it if Nate Diaz was to come back. But if he was, and if Conor McGregor does actually make it back, I think that's the fight to make all day long. The one-on-one, there were some of the biggest fights in UFC history. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor at the White House would be absolute.
Building on his take, Bisping made it obvious that while a potential fight between Diaz and the amazing Max Holloway would definitely thrill the hardcore fans, the real mega event, the one that brings astronomical numbers and creates massive waves, is something else entirely. From his expert perspective, if Diaz actually returns to the cage and McGregor legitimately comes back for another run, then the Trilogy bout is hands down the only fight that makes total sense. Their first 2 battles weren't just big events, they were sport-changing moments that redefined everything and grabbed millions of eyeballs worldwide. Picture this, putting that final decisive chapter on a White House card wouldn't just add prestige, it would turn an already historic personal war into something absolutely legendary, a spectacle that goes way beyond just fighting.
We will have Conor McGregor versus someone, Michael Chandler or Nate Diaz, in the co-main event. So that just kind of sets the tone for how big that card would be. What do you think? Do you think Conor McGregor will actually make it back? Of course, he hasn't fought since 2021, right? It's going to be 5 years since he last fought. I, for one, fair play to the guy. Fair play, man. Respect. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to come back. He's got lots of other avenues and ways to make money, but fighting is something that never leaves you, okay? It's a part of who you are. It's in your DNA. It's part of your soul. And he wants to come back and he wants to get his hands raised in victory. Of course, he wants to come back and be a part of that White House card as well. But does he make it?
Speaking of which, let's dive into just how massive this White House card could actually be. We're potentially looking at someone like McGregor facing off against Michael Chandler, or naturally Nate Diaz. That alone shows you how earth-shattering this event might turn out to be. It's been quite a while, actually a shocking amount of time since McGregor last fought, but you've got to respect him even thinking about such a massive comeback after being away so long. The key point here is that for someone at McGregor's level, this probably isn't about money at this point. That raw competitive drive, that burning need to prove himself, it never really dies in elite fighters. The big question mark, what everyone's wrestling with, is whether that deep hunger, that core motivation is actually sufficient to get him back to championship level shape, ready for war on a stage that huge with that kind of pressure watching. However you slice it, fans are already going absolutely crazy just thinking about the pure pandemonium, the incredible drama, and the unforgettable scenes that only a fight featuring McGregor could possibly create.
Because that's not the fight I want to see next, okay? If Nate Diaz comes back and gets a big win over someone in the welterweight division, okay? And he does it impressively, and then the McGregor fight happens, that's when I'm interested. But right now, I feel like the hardcore fans are kind of in mutual agreement that it's Masvidal or Gaethje. To us, it's kind of Masvidal or Gaethje, and for Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani to both say that they think Nate Diaz Trilogy should be next is strange to me. Very strange to me, because I would love to see either Gaethje or Masvidal. I feel like everyone's in agreement here. We've seen that Donald Cerrone has been beaten by Conor McGregor in his return at UFC 2.
The experienced MMA expert then thoughtfully moved the conversation toward timing and circumstances, looking at everything through the fans' eyes. He carefully broke down that the next big fight in this developing story really hinges on Nate Diaz actually coming back and crucially landing a major statement-making victory in the welterweight division. Only after those dominoes fall, he reasoned, does the epic trilogy with McGregor really make perfect sense, particularly for something as huge as the White House card? Right now, passionate fans are having a blast throwing around matchup possibilities like Masvidal or Glover Teixeira. But the insiders, the real power brokers of the sport, including the incredibly connected Ariel Helwani, are quietly but confidently leaning toward a Diaz versus McGregor showdown as the next major headlining attraction. If that awaited trilogy actually materializes, it could completely steal the show, totally overshadowing everything else and control MMA conversations for months straight.
The UFC reached out to him. Taking what's his, is that the BMF belt against Conor? Like that'd be the only reason you bring Nate back.
Yeah. Unfinished, I could only see being Conor.
That's it. His business is finished outside Conor.
Yeah.
But also, it is what it is. I mean, he's had a great career, especially with his record and stuff that he's done. He's had a great career. Has a huge fan base. Nobody watched him box Masvidal. The numbers were atrocious. So,
and coming off a loss from Jake Paul,
that doesn't help.
No.
But again, you got to think the UFC's they're doing a McDonald's card here, like Happy Meals and Big Macs and Quarter Pounders and the McFlurries. So Nate versus Conor, all right, like that would get people crunk.
It is
people.
one of
the people that don't watch the sport.
It's probably got to be their fight has to be probably one of the highest, if not the highest,
it's up
pay-per-view.
Meanwhile, Brendan Schaub, in his typical no-nonsense approach, laid it all out brutally honest. He declared that if the UFC is seriously considering bringing Nate Diaz back, it's definitely about settling old scores, and from his perspective, the only fight that matters, the one that actually makes sense, is him versus Conor McGregor, maybe even for the symbolic BMF title. Schaub freely recognized Diaz's massive career, including his incredibly devoted fan base and numerous iconic moments that are carved into MMA history. But he also honestly noted that Diaz's recent boxing experiments, particularly that public loss to Jake Paul, haven't exactly maintained his momentum or elevated his fighting reputation. Even so, Schaub emphasized with complete conviction that a Diaz-McGregor trilogy, especially on a White House card, wouldn't just energize both casual viewers and die-hard fans, but would also definitely create one of the highest grossing pay-per-view events in UFC history. He mentioned that despite the recent struggles and the complicated path Diaz has traveled, the raw excitement around him returning to the Octagon, particularly against Conor McGregor, is absolutely undeniable.
And this is a very different night. First off, you got a fixed revenue. You're not selling pay-per-views. Now, that could change. I'm operating with the information that we have now. You got fixed. It's on Paramount Plus. They're not going to do pay-per-view. So it's a question of why bring in some of your most expensive guys. Now, secondly, and far more importantly, is the location as the hook. The draw to this, much like when they played Sphere the first time. And so that was the only time that the UFC has ever, including the time that they went to Madison Square Garden, the only time that they have ever used a venue as the star was Sphere. Now we've got the White House.
Now that's certainly way up there. Meanwhile, the sharp Chael Sonnen approached this whole situation from a smart business perspective, explaining that this isn't your typical fight card. With the event supposedly streaming on Paramount Plus rather than the usual pay-per-view structure, the UFC isn't pursuing traditional money-making approaches the same way. So strategically speaking, investing heavily in these expensive high-profile fighters needs to pay off in a completely different, more complex manner. For Sonnen, the true selling point, the absolute centerpiece of this entire show is the location itself. Just like the UFC, with their incredible talent for creating spectacles, once turned the Sphere into its own attraction, this time it's the legendary White House that's commanding all the focus. The venue isn't just scenery, it's the main event, providing fans with a completely unique and irresistible reason to watch, something that transcends the actual fighters. He mentioned that with a truly loaded card positioned in such an iconic and historic location, even the most casual observers, people who might never usually watch MMA, are definitely going to be hooked. The business genius of this is incredible.
Dana's not going to bring people to the White House for them to retire. He's just not. He's not going to bring people to the White House for them to then turn the gun and say that they're not going to go on the next tour, wherever that tour takes us. The show must go on. So from my perspective, it makes it very unlikely that you're going to see Conor, you're going to see John Jones. Now, John is not this huge draw. Conor is. So there is times where you've got to blend these two worlds together, right? There is times where you're going to use Conor to bring in all of these eyeballs. And even if he specifically isn't going to take you down the road, that attention can then spawn off to other guys. There is a truth to that. But it was also true that it's very hard to build stars at the time that you have Conor McGregor, because he sucks all the air out of the room.
That's exactly the appeal. That's what it all comes down to. Sonnen kept going, stressing that Dana White, the mastermind running the UFC, isn't going to put in all this extraordinary effort, isn't going to bring these amazing athletes to the White House just so they can announce they're done fighting. Absolutely not. The spectacle must continue. He explained that while Conor McGregor can definitely attract enormous worldwide attention, that incredible focus, that global spotlight can be strategically leveraged to highlight and promote other exceptionally skilled fighters on the same card. Even if McGregor isn't planning some extended comeback in the sport, just having him there creates this tsunami of media coverage. The challenging aspect, Sonnen cleverly noted, is that successfully creating new stars alongside McGregor can be extremely tough, exactly because he completely takes over everything. His charismatic personality, his overwhelming presence can basically eclipse everyone else fighting that night. However, and here's the beautiful contradiction, that same overpowering star quality is precisely what makes this possible. White House card so completely irresistible, so undeniably magnetic to viewers everywhere. In the end, Sonnen convincingly argued that McGregor's participation doesn't just guarantee viewers, it guarantees incredible hype, non-stop conversation, and an almost unthinkable platform that extremely few other people on Earth could possibly deliver.
Plan this Thursday, potentially, maybe you'll call for this White House card. What would it mean for you to actually be on this White House card, especially with, we don't know who's on there yet. Maybe John Jones might be on there. You guys might be on there together, like on the same card together, White House. That would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be an honor to be on the White House card, but I take one day at a time. I would love to be the face of it. Olympic champion from USA coming to support the American company, the UFC, and kind of grow myself in that area. But if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, the world keeps going on, and the next big thing will come. And whether I'm on it on the US White House card or the next card or the one before that.
Regarding the potential athletes who might appear on that historic White House card, the extremely gifted Gable Steveson shared his obvious enthusiasm about possibly being part of something so special, really describing it as a tremendous honor and a unique opportunity to represent America as an Olympic gold medalist. He humbly mentioned he's concentrating on taking everything step by step, keeping his feet on the ground during training, but there's no question he'd absolutely cherish being one of the featured attractions of the event. He's both backing the UFC and building his own already solid reputation on such an incredible stage. Steveson continued with true competitor confidence that whether this amazing chance comes on this particular card or maybe a different one later, people will definitely be tuned in, attracted to his distinctive abilities. He truly gets that the platform and the occasion itself are much larger than any individual bout. He also enthusiastically stressed that just being on the same card with legendary figures like McGregor or John Jones would be a completely memorable experience and an unmatched boost for his rising career.
But yeah, they said they were starting the White House card last week, Tuesday matchmaking. They said they were starting it. Damn. I haven't got a call. I haven't got a jingle. I haven't heard nothing. Still Sugar Show might not be on the White House. Don't. No, it's still far. It's still so far out. Like, it's still far enough out to. I don't know. I'm seeing John Jones. I'm seeing GSP maybe.
I seen that.
Conor vs. Nate.
I thought GSP retired like forever.
He did.
Okay.
But it's like they got to do something big. They promised something massive to the Sphere and it sucked.
Additionally, Sean O'Malley, with his typical honesty, was totally straight up about the possible White House card, genuinely confessing that he hasn't gotten any phone calls or official word yet, and that his place on such an elite event definitely isn't locked in. He smartly observed that the event is still pretty far away, which from his perspective gives the UFC lots of time to carefully arrange all the fights and build the ideal card. He brought up seeing huge names like John Jones, the retired legend GSP, and naturally the much-anticipated McGregor-Diaz trilogy all being discussed in conversations. He even commented with obvious respect that GSP had been retired for years, highlighting just how monumental an event this would actually be if those fighters got involved. O'Malley noted with clear awareness of the fan base that the UFC had previously guaranteed something truly enormous and amazing following the Sphere event, and supporters he thinks are now anxiously waiting for them to follow through this time. So after all that amazing analysis and educated guessing, here's the question that's burning in everyone's brain. What's your take? Who eventually walks away victorious in this completely epic legacy-defining trilogy? Share your thoughts down in the comments section. Even better, explain why you think your choice has what it takes to win. Will it be the constant pressure, the incredible toughness, and the seemingly endless endurance of Nate Diaz that breaks down his opponent? Or will it be the pinpoint accuracy, the crushing power, and the proven finishing ability of Conor McGregor that gets him the win? We're absolutely eager to read all your opinions, all your predictions, and all your detailed breakdowns. And listen, while you're there, make sure to smash that subscribe button because you definitely don't want to miss any of our newest content, detailed fight analysis, and exclusive insider information as this truly amazing story keeps developing.